People have been asking me for a long time to make a video on in-game management, how I make the decisions that I make and why I make those decisions, and how then I'm able to turn draws into wins and defeats into draws or victories. But I've struggled to think of a way to make that video because of the number of things that I think about during the game. But just recently I did a live stream, and when I watched it back, there was enough information just within that one video. And now I can show you what I'm thinking during a game, and what decisions I make, and when I choose to implement them. Let's go and kick some balls. Hello and welcome back to FM with Old Man Phil, and if you are a brand new visitor, I'm Phil, and welcome to the channel. And finally today, for all those of you who've asked the question and have been very patient for the answer, I finally figured out how to show you what decisions I make in-game and how that has helped me to achieve the results that I have had over the years. But first, just a little bit of a disclaimer, because things recently have not been that great. And the conclusion that I have come to with regard to that is it's not been great because of the way that I have been playing. And specifically, I've been playing in key highlights since I began my YouTube channel. And that is not the way that I played the game before I actually began this project. And as a result, my ability to get results on the pitch and to use in-game management techniques have declined. Key highlights does not give you the opportunity, the time to make decisions and then act upon them. Basically, what you're doing in key highlights is just guessing, and sometimes you get the guess right and sometimes you get it wrong. But we'll just demonstrate this by looking back at the results that I was getting at Bournemouth before I was headhunted by Juventus. Now, as you can see, Bournemouth are sitting quite comfortably 10th in the Premier League, and you'd think that that's a fairly successful season. But let's have a look at how they have performed in their schedule since I arrived with them. And so we can see at the beginning of this season that our form was pretty poor. And that really is down to poor in-game management. We lost 6-0 to Arsenal and it was looking pretty dreadful. We just loaded up a tactic and basically the game was controlling me. I was not controlling what was happening on the pitch. So I made some changes, and I made the changes here in these two friendlies. And what I did was go to comprehensive highlights. Played the game in comprehensive highlights, and suddenly I remembered how to play the game the way I used to play it. And what's happened is that results got a lot better, and we won in October 5 of our 6 games, drawing the other. We then went on to lose 1-0 to Chelsea, but we had turned the club around by that point. At that point I got headhunted by Juventus, and of course I went to take the new job. They have continued their good form since I've left, which has left them in 10th in the table. And I have played 3 games at Juventus in the last episode, the one we are going to use today to demonstrate how I use the in-game changes and when I choose to do them. When we took over, we were in 15th place in the table, really struggling for form, and we had 3 big games to play, completely different challenges. We were due to play Salernitana, who were 20th in the league, a game we should be comfortably winning, but we all know what FM is like. And then we had an away trip to Feyenoord in the Europa League, a competition we were also struggling in. And then we had the biggest challenge of all. We had to play Atalanta, who were at that time in 4th in the table. 3 very different games that you're about to watch, and I will explain every in-game decision that I made during those games. And then you can see just how I had an impact on all of those games in a completely different way each time. But before looking at the video, there are a number of things that you need to understand that I'm doing every time I play a football match. No matter who it's against, there are a number of things I continually think about when I'm watching the game. So let's just take a look at what those things are. If you are new to the game and don't understand how to do in-game management, then this probably is the video for you. I would suggest you watch very carefully all 3 games. Watch slowly and carefully and try and understand what it is that I am thinking prior to making changes. I will explain all the decisions that I make. And even if you've been playing the game for a long time, and it took me a long time to figure this out, then this might be something that will help you along the way if you want to try and develop your in-game management skills. Watching just one of the games probably is not going to help, but if you watch all three, then you're going to see how it starts to make sense. To begin, there are a number of things that I will always apply from game to game. And the first one of those things is preparation. Now, there are a lot of videos out there on preparation. I have one or two of them myself, and I will try and find them and leave links to that in the description below. This video is not about match preparation, and I'm sure if you want to learn about match preparation, you can find some of that. But be prepared for what is going to happen. And the second thing, and probably the most important thing that I apply, is that I am going to watch the game as a manager, not as a spectator. And the game is called Football Manager. It's not called Football Fan. My job is to watch the game, to analyse the game, and make changes to enable my players to play better. And therefore, if I watch the game as a spectator, I'm not going to be much value to my players. Another thing that I will often think about is to watch for things that experience has taught me will happen. Now, I do know, for example, that when my right winger's having a poor game and his first touch is dreadful, when he makes mistakes out on that wing, it can usually lead to very dangerous situations. So something I keep an eye on is whether or not he is making mistakes within the game. And if he is, I may need to substitute him, or I may need to change his role, or do something else to prevent those mistakes from occurring. Be very aware of the way you play and the consequences that happen as a result of the way you play. Next, just acknowledge that even if you are dominating the game, the opposition are going to have a period of the game where they have the match momentum. And it's those times that you could be vulnerable. So watch out for changes in the match momentum. And if there are problems occurring, do something to prevent those problems from getting worse. Throughout the game, it is also very important to keep checking which opposition problems are playing the best and who's causing you the most problems. Keep an eye on their shooting statistics and their passing statistics, and those will tell you where the problem players are, and then have a plan to deal with them. It is also important that when you're watching the game as a manager, you learn to anticipate problems. When you make changes, you have to also think what might happen as a consequence of those changes. Will I be making myself more vulnerable? And you need, when making those changes, to figure out where you'll be vulnerable and just keep an eye on that area of the pitch and decide, yeah, I need to change back because I am making myself very vulnerable. It really is important to anticipate things when you are watching the game. And finally, be careful with your team talk at half-time. It is quite a crucial phase of the game, this, and not many people pay much attention to it. But, for example, if you criticize your players and you say your passing is not good enough, and then you don't do anything to assist them to make their passing better, they will go out in the second half and continue doing what you've already instructed them to do, which has not been productive because you've just given them a rollicking at halftime saying that they were poor. So make a change to help them to improve their passing. And this might mean a little tweak in the tempo or the passing directness, or it might even mean shifting the line up a little bit to compress the space so that their passing can connect a little bit easier. It is your job as a manager to help them to solve the problems. And if you don't do that, then they will just continue according to the original game plan that you gave them. And so there's a few very important points that I always take into every game prior to the game. And once I've got all that sorted out in my head, then I'm ready for the match. And so now is a good time to start with game one. And I've paused it here with just a few minutes gone, just to show you what I'm actually looking for when it comes to what I can see on screen. Now, in comprehensive highlights, this doesn't pop up very often, but I can make it appear by pausing the game and clicking on that little button, which will bring up the information that I need. The other one, when that disappears, I can bring that up by clicking that little blue button at the top of the screen. So how am I going to use this? Well, at first, it's not going to be easy. If you are learning how to do this, how to manage in-game, it's not going to be easy. You are going to need to slow everything down and stop the game when you need to. And there are several things that I am going to scan, and when I see things that mean I need to make a change, I will make that change. And so in the top right hand corner you can see that I've got the top box, which is my own team, set to passing. And basically I'm just looking at who is our best threat, who is causing the opposition the most problem. Underneath that I've got the opposition screen, and I will have that set to passing. I just haven't done it yet, it's early in the game, so I can see who is posing me the greatest threat in terms of providing opportunities for the strikers or the wide players. At the top next to that we have the formations. These I don't scan very often, but I will notice a change when the opposition change their formation, which will probably mean I need to alter what I am doing a little bit. And then two very important things underneath. We can see the heat map for both sides. And in the first heat map, which is our positioning on the field, we can see that we are pushing them forward. And when we look at the opposition heat map, we can see that we are pushing them deep into their half. So we are actually controlling things at the moment and playing the game exactly where we want to play it. And next to that at the top, we have the Juventus attack screen. It's not the top one of those two that I'm interested in. It's the bottom one of those two, and that will show me if we are threatening down the left or the right or through the middle. It will also show me where the opposition are posing us in terms of their attack the biggest threat. And a very important box under that is the match momentum. The match momentum will show you when the game is changing. So when the game changes in favour of ourselves, we possibly will want to go play a little bit more positive or a little bit more attacking. But when it changes in favour of the opposition, we need to take less risks and be more defensively solid. That's very important information that you are given in that little box. And then finally, we have the little box on the side, which is the statistics. And what I'm really interested in this is whether or not we are getting chances and whether or not we are getting those chances on target. And I'm also interested in the possession statistic, because we play a controlled possession game, and I would expect to see that in our favour. If something is not happening, for example, if we are creating chances but not getting them on target, or if we are not dominating the possession, something that we are doing is not working. And so as you learn to do this, you'll very quickly learn, just like an airline pilot, to scan through this as the game is going on. But while you're learning, as I said, just pause button, bring up the screen, and then take a look at what is going on. And so in my first game in charge of Juventus, you can see that we've reached 40 minutes. The score is 0-0. And we have dominated the game. We've been totally in control of the game, but we've actually only created 4 opportunities. I'm a little bit annoyed with myself because I set off a little bit too defensively. So I make the decision on 40 minutes that I'm going to try to get more bodies forward. We don't need to try and drop back and pull them out. We are just simply not getting enough bodies forward. And so the first thing I'm going to do is to push the defensive line to much higher, and that will mean that then we will start playing the game much higher up and play the game pretty much in their half. And that is all I wanted to do at this point. But I did feel we still needed to change something a little bit. And so when we came to the next stop where I was able to look and scan what was happening, I was able to see what I needed to do. At this point, I was able to see from the position and heat map screen that my centre mid Moretti was playing very deep. There was no need for him to be that deep. He was playing as a centre mid on support, so I made the decision to make him a centre mid on attack. I wanted him to get much further forward towards the edge of the penalty area or even inside the penalty area, and then hopefully he would create some chaos in the penalty area. But when we got to half-time, things were still not good. It was still 0-0, and although we had doubled the amount of chances that we created, we were still not getting our shots on target. And so for my team talk, I just told them that I was not happy with them. I had made some changes to help them to create more opportunities. They had created more opportunities, and they had still failed to put the ball in the net. So I was quite justified in telling them that this was not acceptable. and better it got, and we scored 4 goals in the second half. But I want you to keep an eye, when you watch the goals, keep an eye on the movement of Moretti, who is now playing as a centre mid on attack. And as we break forward here, just keep an eye on him. We're working it up the left. Ball, looking to get the ball inside. There's Moretti. He's inside the penalty area now. And we have scored the opening goal. And that little change that we made seemed to have done the trick. Although we still have to be wary because we're going to leave space behind him, it looks like we'd done the trick. And then we doubled our lead. And once again, keep an eye on the positioning of Moretti. And there he is again, in the box, making it 2-0. Just that simple little tweak, and we've overrun them now. We scored a third goal before once again we found ourselves with a free kick on the edge of the box, playing the ball around. Where's Moretti? There he is. Bang! That's his hat-trick. He was playing too deep. We spotted it just before half-time. 6 minutes before half-time, we forced him to play higher up the pitch, and he rewarded me with a hat-trick. We ran out winners of the game by 4-0. And so that's the first example of just being observant, looking at what you see on the pitch and what you see in the stats boxes, and you can turn the game around in your favour. And we started off with a thumping 4-0 victory. In the second game, we had pretty much the same scenario. We had reached 40 minutes of the first half, and we had created just 2 opportunities, one of which was on target. However, we had defended well, which had meant that Feyenoord had not created a single chance. They had not had a shot on goal. In this game, I had started Moretti playing as the centre mid on attack, and you can see from his position on the heat map that he is much further up the pitch than he was in the last game. Now, therefore, the decision I made at this point was to change nothing, but just to be patient. Even if we didn't beat Feyenoord and we came away with a draw, a point away in this game would be good for morale, and we'll take a point. So I made no changes in this game, but just decided I'm going to be very, very patient. And that patience paid off. We got a throw in on the left-hand side, and we worked the ball around looking for space. We're playing this time in a much more patient fashion. They took the ball off us, and at this point I'm starting to think maybe I need to do something, but I'm still going to remain patient. What I did, though, was I moved the line higher up. I didn't feel that Feyenoord were creating any kind of a threat, and so just as in the last game, I decided, let's push the line up, and then we broke away, and then we managed to put it in the back of the net. We were 1-0 up just before half-time. Job, I think, done. We kept doing exactly the same thing, and in the second half, we overran them. We scored 3 more goals before this happened in added-on time. We had changed pretty much nothing very much in this game, and there you go. What a lovely way to seal a 5-0 victory. A stunning goal from Danilo. And so the second part of what I needed to do to win these next 3 games had been completed. And in this one, what's important to realise is that sometimes when things are going well, it's just important to stay patient. And I just decided that we weren't needing to throw bodies forward. I would be happy with a draw. I'm going to stay patient. And the boys rewarded me playing in the way that I originally wanted them to play. I did push the line up a little bit to play the game in their half to compress the spaces between the lines, and that paid off as well. So just these little tweaks seem to be, at this point, helping me to win the games. And so finally we got to game number 3 at Atalanta away. And this was a much tougher opposition. This, of the 3 games, was going to be the real test for us. As you can see, I'm playing in a balanced mentality. I had set my stall out to defend. We were the away team, and I felt if I could come away from here with a point, then all would be well. When I took this team over, morale was in complete disarray. We had started to repair it. A point away here in this very big fixture would help to restore what this club was going through. If we could get something out of this game, it would be absolutely brilliant. And so as we were coming up to half-time, I was very, very happy. We had totally outplayed Atalanta. We had dominated possession as we should be doing, passing the ball around at speed. We had created a lot more chances. We had created 7 chances. We only had 2 on target, though. It was something that was in the back of my mind. But in this game, I was going to be very, very patient. And so I had absolutely changed nothing. And so at half-time, the score was 0-0. I was very pleased with that, and I told the boys, I'm very pleased with you. I'm very pleased with the way that you are playing out there. But just after half-time, we got a free kick. And from the free kick, this happened. And Dusan, who had been injured, picked up the ball 25 yards out and unleashed an absolute worldie into the top corner. But whilst I celebrated the goal, and I was overjoyed, what a strike that was, I was also now concerned, very concerned, and I'm starting to anticipate what might happen. We've dominated the game up to this point, but we've almost done something like sticking a big stick into a hornet's nest. We have put ourselves in danger, and so I had to react quickly to what I felt might happen. And what I was concerned about is that the match momentum would begin to change. We were underdogs, and we had stung a sleeping monster, and they were going to come at us now. But I decided that what we should do is defend for 10 minutes. We should hold on to our lead and make sure that they don't score whilst they're at their most angry. And so very quickly I made some changes. I decided to pull the line down a bit in case they try to get balls over the top. I'm looking at the forwards who are very tight on our defensive line, and I was really concerned that they may try to put some balls over the top. I wanted to hold on at this point to what we'd got. The next 10 minutes were absolutely vital. I also noticed at this point that several of their players playing down the right-hand side had actually got yellow cards. So I made a very quick decision at this point that what I should do is focus my play down the left-hand side. And I would instruct my players to dribble more and to go down the left where all those yellow cards were, in the hope that they would get another card and then get sent off. Finally, I decided to go into a mid-block with very little time on the clock, and we closed the game down, and we managed to get the victory that we thoroughly deserved. And so this victory was simply about defending. And it was about recognizing that when we went a goal ahead, it was bad news rather than good news. And what we had to do was focus on defending. We pulled the line back because I was concerned. We later then went even more defensive and we held on. And that was quite an incredible result. We were rank underdogs, and the tweaks that we made actually helped us to hold on. And we ran out winners by 1-0. 3 different games and 3 different ways we had to deal with each problem. But in each of the games, we came out winners. A brilliant performance in our first 3 games as the new Juventus manager. And while we have been making this video, which has taken a little bit of time, we have played another stream and we have had some very good results in that stream. We played Parma at home, a very difficult opponent, but using the same principles, we eventually managed to beat them quite comfortably by 4-0. And then the best result of all, Celtic, who are flying high in the Europa League. We are not doing so well, but we came away from Celtic Park after having to make so many adjustments because match momentum was shifting all the time. We came away with a very creditable 2-2 draw. And then against Spezia, that was a very difficult game as well, against a team who were lowly placed. They came out and gave us a game, but we overcame them and managed to beat them by 1-0. And so those are just some of the things that we did in order to change games in our favour. I don't believe the games that you saw, we would have won any of them if we had been playing in key highlights. Switching back to comprehensive has made my life very enjoyable indeed, and I'm now starting to really enjoy playing the game again. And since switching back to comprehensive, I have not lost a game across both of the saves that I do live on YouTube. And I do stream every night apart from Saturday at 8 p.m. on YouTube. And if you have got this far and you want to continue developing your in-game management skills, then the best way is to watch someone who's playing in that way. And so if you really do want to develop your in-game management skills, then come along to the live streams, say hello and ask questions, and I will try to answer any of the questions that you have. And that's it for this video, and if you are brand new to the channel and you like FM content, then why not click that subscribe button, click the bell, and then you'll be updated when we upload future videos. And all that remains to be said now is thanks for watching, stay safe, and we will see you in the next video.